Please take your seats. Rockledge City Council regular meeting Wednesday, June 20th, 2018. It is 6 p.m. And if there's any person in the audience that would like to address the City Council, you must complete a speaker's card, which is on the back table in the back. And once you fill out that card, bring it up to our city clerk, the young lady at the end of the dais here, and she will call your name up when we get to your part. City Clerk, you want to call the roll, please?
Mayor Price.
Here.
Councilman Smith.
Here.
Councilman Ferguson.
Here.
Councilwoman Martin.
Here.
Councilman Forrester.
Here.
Councilman Dasky.
Here.
Councilman Hartzell.
Here.
City Attorney Maniclier.
Here.
City Manager Fetro.
Here.
Okay, please stand for our invocation tonight. It's going to be Councilman Dwayne Dasky, and also remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance.
Please bow with me. Our Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight and we ask you to look over our meeting, guide us and direct us to make the best decisions for the residents of Rockledge. Please watch after our first responders here and everywhere else. Bring them home safely. Watch after our military men and women. Bring them home safely as well. In your name we pray. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen. Salute the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Thank you. Yeah, last word. If I fall backwards, you can catch me. The council has before them the minutes of the meeting June 6, 2018. What's pleasure to council?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dasky.
Move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting on Wednesday, June 6, 2018.
Second. We have a motion. We have a second. Do we have any discussion? Any changes? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Presentations, none today. Financial budget report. Who's going to give me the financial budget
Mr.
report?
Chairman.
Go ahead.
I move to be in receipt of the financial budget report on the month of for the month of May 2018.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Do we have any discussion on the budget? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Public hearings, ordinances, and resolutions, none. This is going to be a short meeting tonight, folks. Reports from boards and committees. Who's going to give me the reports?
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Move to be in receipt of the minutes of the following meetings. Business Development Committee minutes meeting on May 29, 2018. Planning Commission meetings minutes on June 4, 2018. Council Finance and Budget Committee minutes of the meeting on June 13, 2018, and to consider independently any recommendations contained therein.
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Our first recommendations, Planning Commission minutes of the meeting June 4, 2018. Recommendation, approval, ZDA 1802 Condev, Brookview, rezoning from R2 to PUD Planning District 8. They recommend to the council the approval of the rezoning from R2 to PUD for ZDA 18-02. City Attorney.
Mr. Mayor, it appears that this is going to require a quasi-judicial hearing, that there are parties who are going to want to present evidence in opposition to the requested change in the zoning. I would first ask, have any of you done any independent evaluation studies, visited the property, conducted any type of investigation concerning this property? Is that the answer no?
No.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead.
Just to the extent of looking it on Google, and that's about it. See where it's at, what it entails.
You didn't get any independent expert testimony, anything?
No, sir.
And has anybody discussed this case with any of the parties?
No.
The reason why I do this is we have an ordinance that requires when we conduct quasi-judicial hearings to ask these questions, and the reason being is that a presumption of regularity now applies to this hearing. I believe it was Schneider versus Brevard County 2, that has led to a codification of how these hearings are supposed to be held and conducted. The first would be that I would ask, does any of you have a direct or indirect potential conflict with any of the parties in this action?
Yes.
No.
No.
Mr. Mayor, would you like to describe what it is?
Yes. I own a business in the city of Cocoa, and it's a storage facility. And over a year ago, I was contacted by the applicant, Condev, to purchase my business, and I had some business dealings with them. They did not purchase my business, and I even had a conversation with them as recently as 3 to 4 weeks ago, I'm not sure. So I will recuse myself from any voting on this particular matter today.
And remember to fill out your form.
I will fill out my form.
What is it? 8B. They keep giving us different numbers. Anyway, the appropriate form for your recusal and your reason for it. There's nothing that disqualifies you to continue to act as the chairman of the hearing. You're just not going to vote.
I will not be voting, correct.
Anyone else?
No, sir.
Okay, so we will be essentially have 6 voting parties on this. Mr. Smith? Councilman Smith?
What is it?
He was just asking if you have any questions.
Of course. No. Frank?
No problem. Anybody else?
I don't think this is, years ago, when I was president of the Wellington Homeowners Association, I worked with Mr. Gardner in negotiating some terms between Wellington Station and his Phillips Landing subdivision.
Did it have anything to do with the matter that is coming before the council tonight?
No.
And that was years ago? And it
Yeah.
was in your capacity as a homeowners
I was a
committee or
homeowners
board?
association president before I was ever elected to council.
And do you have any potential financial gain that may come from either directly or indirectly from anything that's going to be heard tonight?
No.
Then do you feel that you should recuse yourself?
No, I didn't think I should. I just wanted to be
Glad to put it on the
transparent.
record. Okay.
I just wanted to be transparent.
Anyone else?
Nope.
All right, we're going to have, then there will be 6 voting members on this. If there is a 3-3 vote, the motion will fail because it would be a tie. You just need to know that, so you will really need 4 to 2 to, pass the recommended proposal that's for you tonight. There are certain statutory requirements. I believe it's, and this is off the top of my head, 162.3025 or 15. It sets out the procedures for a quasi-judicial hearing. Essentially, any parties who wish to present evidence and that's what you need to remember. You are to consider evidence that, although it isn't what you would consider in a trial, either civil or criminal, but it still should have some relevancy and some basis in fact for you to consider it. Many people may just say, I don't like it, and that's their opinion. That's really not fact. But if they have saying the traffic will be too, and they can give you specifics, that's the type of thing that you need to be considering and thinking about. What is going to impact the community and whether this is in compliance with the various land development regulations in our comprehensive plan. Okay. With that, Mr. Mayor?
Anybody have any questions, City Attorney? Let's move forward. Alex, you want to come forward? Name and address for the record, and you will have to be sworn in.
Good evening, Alex Bernard, address 1600 Huntington Lane, Rockledge, Florida.
Please raise your right hand. You swear or affirm that the testimony you shall give before the Rockledge City Council shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do. Okay, so on June 5th, this went before Planning Commission. Roughly, it's about 8 acres, and the applicant is requesting a rezoning of R2 to PUD. Our code says that is allowed. The minimum lot size or the minimum acreage size for PUD is 5 acres. That was changed in 2015. This is in Planning District 8. And it's in line with the city's comprehensive plan and the city's land development regulations. If this is approved tonight, what you see before you as the conceptual plan will be considered a binding site plan for a period roughly of about 2 years, at which point, if it's not developed during that time, it will have to come before you again.
Okay.
You have a smaller copy of what you're showing on the overhead screen.
I have 3 big copies, and I have, I think, the small copy in
This
here.
would like one of them to be marked as Exhibit 1 for the quasi-judicial hearing,
You got it.
given to the clerk.
Okay. So there are 3 large plans before you tonight. He's requesting roughly 28 single-family homes, and this will be, when he went before Planning Commission, a recommendation was made for City Council. The developer has proposed to agree to, he agreed to 50% of the homes to be 2-story and to have the strategic placement so as to not impact the existing neighbors. And he's also agreed to work with staff in regards to buffering, landscape, or fencing, be it whatever is best. If we want to save as many trees as possible, so if a fence is better in one area than landscaping, then we'll look at those things.
Okay. Anybody have any questions of Alex? Alex, does this project comply with all of our rules and regulations of development?
It does.
Does this comply with our drainage requirements that we have, which were the strictest in Brevard County
It does.
and one of the strictest in the state of Florida?
It does. He's designing to a 100-year storm event.
100-year storm event?
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Any other questions of Alex?
Just one, the stormwater retention area there, the outflow will go to the canal to the north of the property? Is that
I
correct?
believe that's true, but we also have the engineer here as well, who can probably confirm that for us.
Okay. Anything else from Alex? Any other questions?
Mr. Chair, I would like to ask Alice, did the board do any type of studies, school, how it's going to impact schools, or traffic studies?
So,
Let the city attorney answer that.
okay.
The school board, when you're talking about concurrence, it really doesn't do that any longer. What happens is the city is required, or the developer rather is required to obtain a recommendation of approval from the school board. And that is what is required in that area now. Have they received that yet?
Not yet. This is the first step before they start with going through the site plan review process.
Which is concurrency.
Right, concurrency, and there won't be any development until they comply with all of the concurrency requirements.
That's correct.
Any other questions? Okay, I'd like to have the developer come forward. You have to be sworn in as well. Name and address for the record.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you shall give before the Rockland City Council should be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Commissioners, good evening. Chris Gardner with Condo Brookview. We're the owner and the applicant. We held a community meeting in May, knowing this would be a sensitive project. It is an infill community. It's not like any other project that you don't drive by someone else's house to get to your property. So we are sensitive to that. This is a step in a process, obviously. I think the more meaningful process beyond tonight, should we be granted approval to move forward, is to continue to work with the neighbors, the adjacent property owners and staff to ensure that we're not going to be a complete disruption of everyone's life. I mean, I know that sounds a little callous, but that is the goal. We're not seeking a lot of controversy. It's just we don't want to make anyone's life more miserable. So we did, as Alex said, we did provide during last meeting a couple of items, one being a buffer. We couldn't commit to style, appearance. The site does have some vegetation on it, and while we'd love to just say we're going to stick a 6-foot fence in and put it up high and give everyone a nice buffer, not sure that's fair to some of the existing vegetation out there, maybe doing more harm than good. So we'll be working with staff, obviously, to understand what's best for the neighbors, best for us, best for everybody. The other thing is that there was some concern, especially in the area where we've got existing homes, about mix and style of homes, single story and 2-story. So again, while we didn't commit to exactly which lot would hold which house, we did say we will limit our homes to 2-story, and we'll work very hard to ensure that those are a mix around the community so as not to burden the existing residents. Brian with MBV Engineering is here tonight. In the event we do have technical questions, drainage has been a really debated topic, and I would say it's really just out of just sheer how is it going to impact the existing residents there. And so I think Brian can accommodate those answers if needed tonight.
When did you have a meeting with the neighbors?
That was done in May.
In May? How many people showed up?
we have a good description of a house full. I'd say 45, 50 people. Is that fair? I mean, that's something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, more than this evening.
Okay.
And then there was a good turnout at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting earlier this month. So, you know, we have a history here in the city. We've developed here. We think we've developed well, and we're looking forward to doing the best we can with this community as well. So I'll reserve the rest of my time for rebuttal and response unless I can answer some questions.
I'd like for your engineer to come forward.
Certainly. Right?
Can I?
You got a question? Phil?
Let me ask him a quick question. On the issue of the 2-story homes, I notice you've got, looks like, without actually counting here, well over, you know, at least half of your lots here would have a potential for 2-story without looking over a fence into the neighbor's backyard. Would there be an emphasis on doing the 2 stories there, or?
I think that was the intent without stating that being the intent. I think, you know, the overwhelming feedback we've received, especially from the residents that live, which would abut the western property line, was I really would prefer to not have a 2-story home in my backyard. I mean, I think keeping it as simple as that. So we didn't go that deep, Commissioner, but I think that really was the intent, is to try to avoid where you have homes abutting each other, to do the best you can to mitigate the appearance of something in your backyard that's overlooking you. There is a 25-foot buffer there in between the communities, which is code for the PD. And again, our goal, I think, is the same as the residents, at least in this regard, that we're doing ourselves a service if we can do as much as we can to preserve in that area, because nothing really replaces mature vegetation. A fence can't do that. You know, a 3-inch caliper oak tree can't do that. So nothing replaces existing mature landscaping. So to the extent we can do that, that's what we'll be doing.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you. I'd like to have your engineer come forward.
Right.
That doesn't count against his time responding to questions. Okay. Please raise your right hand, sir.
I'm sorry.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you should give before the Rockledge City Council shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you?
Yes, sir.
Please state your full name.
My name is Brian Daigle. I'm a project manager for MBV Engineering. I reside in Palm Bay.
Could you repeat and spell your name, please?
Yes, D-A-I-G-L-E.
And Brian is B-R-I-A?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, sir. Can you speak to us about the drainage that you have designed and outfall?
Yeah, at this point, everything is conceptual preliminary. We are working towards meeting all the requirements for all the agencies involved. We have to respond to comments from St. Johns River Water Management District and also this city as well to meet all the requirements. But preliminarily, what we have is that 100% of the rainfall that falls in this project will be captured and will be treated, and then it will be released into the Fall Canal.
Okay. And do you find our regulations more strict than St. John's Water Management?
A little bit, yes. Yes, a little bit.
Okay. All right. And you've already done your permeability studies and everything on the property back in there?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir, we have. Also, I just wanted to note that if this community had been built back 30 years ago with Levitt Park, you wouldn't have those regulations that we're meeting to today. In fact, 100% of the impervious areas would be collected and transmitted into Levitt Park, which would, accumulate the issues that they're having there right now.
Right, okay. Any other questions of the engineer of record? Yes?
Is Blake fenced?
We believe there will be a fence. Yes.
That's all in negotiation.
Currently, because we've not submitted to the Water Management District, some of the fencing requirements are imposed by the district based on grade and slope of your pond bank. We have had that very same question. Actually, we had a little bit of a mixed response. The fence makes sense from a liability standpoint. This will be a homeowners association, obviously, and we're not interested in liability. We've also had some folks that say, I live near there, I'm not sure I want to stare into a fence. So I'm not sure there's any decision there, but if a fence is required, certainly, Commissioner, we'll fence. But at this stage, I kind of think we're trying to flip a coin and figure out, is it best? Does it serve a dual purpose? And I'm not sure we're there yet. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lisa, call you first.
April Adler.
Joe, they swear in as well. Joe, they swear in as well.
Yes.
April, you'll have to be sworn in by the city attorney.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you should give before the Rockledge City Council should be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Okay. State
You
your
have
full
3
name for
minutes,
the-
April, and I need your name and address for the record.
How many minutes do I have?
You have 3 minutes.
3 minutes, okay.
Need your name and address for the record.
My name is April Adler, 28-year resident of Levitt Parkway. I live on 956 Bayberry Lane, the street that'll be affected most from the homes that are lined up on the west side.
Go right ahead.
I don't feel good. I have a bunch of notes, and I'm hoping I could just, speak frankly with you guys. So,
Speak frankly.
this is actually my 4th time I've come here. The first time that we came here, it was like May 1st or 2nd. We had a room full of people, and I don't know if Chris caught wind or anything, but he did not show up, and then we found out he had canceled the meeting that day, so we were not happy about that. The second time, Chris did send out a letter saying, dear friends and neighbors, and I think we took a little insult to that because, some wrote him not a nice letter. Anyway, so he did come. He was beaten up a little bit, and then the third time we had the zoning plan commission, and there was a lot of people there, and I think we feel just kind of a little defeated, and I think that's why there's not as many people. So I just trying to give you the background here. A little bit. I was a little disappointed with Paul Grossman, the chair, because he knows this gentleman personally, and I'm really surprised he didn't back out of his vote. That was very disappointing to me. I'm going to just hurry up and continue. Please let me know when I have a minute left. Okay, so points that were discussed. We do need an 8-foot tree line if we're moving forward to this. I figured, he'd purchased the land. There was already an R4 set there. He wants the zone into PUD. And when I look at that, I'm like, how can you fit 28 homes and almost 8 acres? It's just, I'm just totally shocked. It's a 0 lot line. When you look out there, we have a lot of wildlife out there. It's a natural nature preserve. We have gopher turtles on each side, and so I'm really looking forward to the environmental impact and vegetation studies. I'd actually like to see that as soon as it's made available. I would also like to look at, I know that we understand that this may become a binding site, so it's understandable we need to wait till all assessments are done. We also found out that through, I can't remember the lady, she was from the school board, and she was also worried about we're at capacity in Rockledge right now, that, we hope these people understand that they may be shipped, their tiller may be shipped down to places that are maybe not as desirable. So the other things, 1 minute, thank you. I do like the fact that 50% of the homes being built on the site will be 2 stories, and we are hoping that, yes, Chris will move them to either the Georgetown side where the canal is, or at least the preserves. to the homes that are there, because we do not want people looking in the backyard. Also, with the 25-foot buffer, I don't think that includes pools. You'll have to clarify that on me. I think that pools can go right out into it, and that's a structure you cannot move, so it will be moved even closer to us, our residents on Bayberry Lane. If you look on there, Bayberry Lane is pretty much getting the brunt of this. There doesn't seem to be really any fairness between the other place and, or the other, on the east side, basically, Emerald Hills. So in conclusion, Condev had mentioned that they still make a profit at 22 homes, and I feel strongly that this is what needs to be improved. He still gets a profit, and yet we still can save some wildlife out there. Thanks for your time. We hope that you understand how important our community, that every effort is given to protect our wildlife and the sanctity of our homes. Thank you.
Thank you. Lisa?
Mr. Chairman, Jahala Lastrasio. I apologize if I mispronounced that.
Did you butcher that name?
I probably did.
Ma'am, if you please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you should give to the Rockledge City Council shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do. Yeah. You have my name? I do. Okay.
Name and address for the record on the recording.
Jahela Lastrosio, 981 Brill Way. And we're a 40-year resident at that location.
How many years?
40.
40.
Well, in October, it'd be 40 years.
Good for you.
When that area was built, that's the house we've lived in all these years. It's very disappointing what April had said. She kind of summed it up quite well. I'm kind of disappointed. I kind of feel that the city council has really no clue of what has transpired up to now, and maybe it's because so you can have more of an open mind. I was very disappointed when the planning committee, after we gave pretty good testimony of why not to rezone, and it was almost like, okay, that was just a formality, we had to go through it. We're going to do what we planned to do in the first place, and we're going to recommend to the city council that we go PUD. We would like to see no development, obviously, because it's, I don't know if you can pass these around, but it's the last oasis in Leavitt Park, and one of the last oases in Rockledge. And part of the reason so many people have lived here for so many years is because Rockledge has been a nice community to live in. But I'm not a tree hugger, really. But there's an awful lot of wildlife that has been forced into these woods from, like when Emerald Hills was built, that wildlife came into this area. The people that live on Bayberry, they're the ones that see it. I see like rabbits and maybe a wildcat every once in a while, but there's owls and a lot of wildlife. Oh, sure, I only have a few. But I don't know, when you look at it from a Google map, it's really, to me, it's a little scary that here we're in this year, 2018, and whatever you guys decide is going to be it. Once that little oasis gets developed, it's going to be gone. And, we just really hate to see that happen. Solution, it would be great if the state of Florida and the city of Rockledge could buy it and just keep it as a natural preserve. But as a very minimum, please don't rezone it to PUD. Just keep it R2. If a developer wants to come in and develop it, at least it's in line with Emerald Hills and in line with the current Leavitt Park. We just hate to see that happen. And I'm also concerned or kind of confused that why in 2015 did the PUD laws get changed? Was this preemptive to tonight's meeting? Like, okay, we've got to expand from 5 acres to 10 acres to incorporate those 8 acres in Leavitt Park so that now we can get it changed to PUD. So I'm thinking this has been in the works for many, many years. It's not just in the last couple of months. Thank you for your time, and please keep it R2. Thank you.
Okay, for your information, the city council does know everything that's going on. We're given reports on all of the board meetings, the minutes. We know everything that's going on. We've known everything that's going on with this project. And this is not something that was changed in 2015 because of this project, believe me. at times, the city does change their comprehensive plans. We have to go back through by state law and review our comprehensive plans and make changes to our comprehensive plans, and that's what was done in 2015. It wasn't done because this gentleman down here was buying this piece of property. We had no idea about that.
Okay, what benefit is it to the city of Rockledge to make it a PUD development?
It's in the comprehensive plan that they're allowed to do that in this specific District 8.
But that being said, the city council is not forced to change the zoning.
No, no, we're not forced to do anything, but, I mean, he's allowed to do that per this district.
Okay.
That's why he's asking to do it. He's allowed to do it.
Well, a lot of residents in Rockledge would be really happy if the council does not approve the PUD.
Okay, thank you.
May I?
Yep, go ahead.
Ma'am, just for your information, one of the reasons that we did the change 3 years ago was because in Rockledge, we have a lot of little segments, little parcels like this one, that we're, we don't have we can't expand out to the west, or we end up in the St. Johns River or the interstate or something. So we're looking, at places where people can live in Rockledge. And that gives us, making that change gave us a little more flexibility as to how we could use some of those smaller parcels of land. We call it infill, where we're filling in parcels that are already surrounded by like neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the reasons that we changed it 3 years ago.
But isn't one of the pluses of living in Rockledge is that we're kind of limited to how many people actually live in Rockledge? I mean, I have no desire to move to Viera because it's so darn crowded down there, I don't see what the benefit to the taxpayers of Rockledge is to have more development in Rockledge. I don't get it.
Well, we can't stop development either just because we're the city council. If they comply with our rules and regulations, we can't tell people, don't come to Rockledge, we're not gonna let you develop in Rockledge anymore. We can't do that. They can sue us and they can win.
Okay, unless you change the planning thing, right?
Well, if it was changed, okay, he could still build houses there. The lots would just be 5 or 10 feet wider.
Right.
That's the only difference it would make. It wouldn't stop somebody from building houses there.
Right, because it's currently R2.
And he can stuff the same number of houses in there too.
Under R2?
Yeah. Yes, he can. He can stuff them in there. You might not like the way it looks, but he can stuff them in there.
Yeah.
Well, I hope he changes his mind.
Well.
Anything else?
Nope, thank you very much. Next, Lisa.
Mr. Chairman, Jolana Ramsey.
Take your time.
Place to sit down?
My name is Jolana Ramsey. You did perfect.
No, I was just going to ask you, do you need a place to sit down?
No, I'm fine.
Okay. To please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you should give to the Rockledge City Council should be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Can you please spell your last name for me?
Ramsey.
Thank you.
And I live at 962 Bayberry Lane in Rockledge. I'm the newcomer. We moved in 1993 to work for the shuttle program in California. My 2 sons and I were raised there and built tree houses in the forest. And the biggest appeal to us was that there was land behind that house when we bought it that served for something not only beautiful to look at, but as a natural buffer to not having houses behind. So I paid a considerable amount more money than the other houses in Levitt Park at that time for that property. And one of my fears is that my property will decline or be equal to the lots that are R2 in Levitt Park as a result of the PUD lot size. There are, April Jahala mirrored a lot of my concerns, and I just want to ask, how many developments are PUD in Rockledge? Does anybody here have any idea?
There's many, but I don't know the exact number.
That are not townhouses or storage units or condominiums or apartment buildings,
Alex would probably know that answer or can get that answer for you.
actual housing developments. I know that all the housing developments that are around us are all R2, and their lot size is 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, considerably bigger than a PUD size.
Yeah, I think Bayberry was developed in the 80s.
Right. One of the big concerns that we have on the forest side of Bayberry is the flooding issue. I know that the engineer here, Brian, can't remember your last name, Gardner, that came, you're the developer. Anyway, had said that there wouldn't be any flooding, but there's a definite difference from the back of the forest line to the sliders of our properties. There's about a 3-foot difference in elevation.
They're
And
higher than you're saying?
higher.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that has been taken into consideration in this water retention and building to scrape the land down lower so that we don't get additional flooding. We've actually gone through and put in French drains and run lines through from our backyard to our front to prevent the flooding from happening as a result of the higher elevation. But once
So that property was flooding your property, you're saying?
Yes, most of us on that side have had flood issues, and we've had to put in some kind of drainage to prevent that from happening. And
Does your street flood?
not anymore. We had some new storm drains put in, which are awesome. They're working great now.
When we
But
had 22 inches of rain during Hurricane Irma, did your street flood?
it did, but we've since then had the storage drains repaired, and they're fixing the big issue on Brill, where Jahala lives now.
Okay.
Which we have tadpoles in there every time it rains. The water doesn't go down.
Good.
Another issue to me is if there is going to be a development, and I wish there wouldn't be, because so much of the land has been just squashed over, and there isn't much natural property anymore in Rockledge, and nowhere for all these animals. We got bobcats. We had a panther come through a couple of years ago. We had to call wildlife to come and get it. We have owls of 2 different kinds, gopher turtles, other kind of turtles. You name it, we have it. And where are they going to go? They've all kind of come into our area because of all the building that's taken place on Barnes, on Fisk, and everywhere else that's been around us in the last many years. So that's a big thing. I'm not a tree hugger, but I love the trees that are back there now, and I don't want to see the wildlife getting misplaced. And then being handicapped, I'd like to see some kind of speed bumps or this kind of dip bumps on the Brookview that's going to be extended.
That's another whole ordeal.
Because
And-
I ride a motorized wheelchair, and I come around, I live on Bayberry, and I
Speed
come around
bumps
there.
or speed humps is another whole ordeal that you have to call Alex and discuss that with her.
That's a huge thing, not getting
Is.
run over.
It's a huge thing. I
Yeah.
think your 3 minutes are up, ma'am. You want to conclude?
I feel heartsick from from having this development go in. I don't want it. Almost every neighbor I've talked to doesn't want it. And I don't know that we could prevent it, but it would be nice to be able to salvage some of the natural trees and the shrubs, et cetera, there, and reduce it to an R2 or a lower housing build in that area. Make it 22, 23 houses instead of 28.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Lisa?
Mr. Chairman, the last card I have is for Frank Hetzler.
Frank, come forward.
Sir, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony I should give before the Rochester City Council should be the truth and nothing but the truth? Please state your full name and address.
My name is Frank Hetzler. I live at 898 Brunswick Lane, and that's the corner of Brookview and Brunswick. Been a resident there for 15 years. Came here because I did not want to live up north anymore. So I found Rockledge, fell in love with it. I specifically picked Levitt Park because I loved it. I don't love what's happening right now. We've heard from all our people, they just came up here, April, Jelana, Jahala. This is very special. This community is very special. You have other places throughout Rockledge that are being developed. There was all woods. They rid the woods. They put up houses. There's already houses here. There's a little piece of land in the middle of Levitt Park. Let's save it. Mr. Mayor, council members, I understand that you said the builder can do what he wants, but I'm hoping that the city of Rockledge can say, you know what, enough is enough. We have to save Rockledge for what everybody here has come here for. They love Rockledge and they love Levitt Park. If you're going to do anything to Levitt Park, we naturally had a beautiful park named in honor of our past mayor, Mr. Larry Schultz. So that's Larry Schultz Park. You got that piece of land in there, and it says Levitt Park. Make that the park. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other cards? Anybody else would like to speak on this issue before I close the public hearing? Did you want to speak again? Come on, I'll let you speak.
Mr. Mayor, if you wanted to open it up to a public hearing, which might be a good idea, those parties do not have to be sworn and really aren't part of the quasi-judicial hearing unless they have relevant evidence that you want to consider. However, they're not going to be subject to an oath or any cross-examination or rebuttal.
Well, we're at our last speaker now, so we're pretty much done.
Okay, I just want to make...
Just remember, you're still under oath.
Absolutely. I'll be quick. April Adler. The one thing I didn't mention that I didn't hear is that there's going to be a ton of traffic due to the construction. And if you know Levitt Parkway, it is very hard to get out, in and out between Fisk Boulevard. It is like Frogger, if you guys are familiar with that. It is very dangerous. And we're a shortcut anyway between Bayberry and Brookview. So I'm just letting you know that, you know, if you figure, I mean, I'm guessing from 70 to 90 cars. Can you imagine the construction that's going into there? And after they're done with all of that, the extra cars that are going to be there, I couldn't imagine how crazy it's going to be. So I just wanted to bring that to the table as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I make a comment on that one?
Sure.
Next Thursday night?
Yes, at 6
There's a meeting
p.m.
here at City Hall with Florida Department of Transportation concerning Fisk Boulevard traffic. And the Levitt Park intersection is one of the key items on that. Just so you'll know, the City Council is aware of the problems getting in and out of Levitt Park onto Fisk. And we have been working, I don't know, we've tried, because Fisk is a state road. So we can't just go in there and go, hey, we're going to put up a red light. No. State told us we can't put up a red light there. I believe the current plan is for a roundabout there.
Which is very interesting.
I think that is the state's current plan, but don't think that we're not aware of the issue there. I guess that's why I'm telling you that. And I strongly encourage you to attend the meeting here. Dr. Fetro can give you the exact time, but it's next Thursday night, I believe, right here at City Hall. Okay. So you might want to attend that because we've recognized that problem. We've been working on it. We've been negotiating with the state. We've been begging, pleading, threatening, cajoling, everything we can think of to do to try to get some help there. So this is your all's chance to help us help you by attending that meeting.
And just to answer a few of the other questions that were brought up, the taxpayers of Rockledge did step up and buy that front piece in front of Levitt Parkway. I think we spent over $800,000 for that. And that was slated to be developed. And we, as a city council, jumped in and purchased it before the developer did. And we made a park out of that, and we actually turned it into something that actually helps us with our points for stormwater treatment, because we run our canals through that lake. It treats the stormwater and it runs it back out, and all that water actually goes out to St. John's, to the Indian River. So we get a lot of points for that. By state law, we're required to do so many improvements for stormwater every year in the city, and that's one thing that we did, and we turned that into a very nice park because we did that. So we have stepped up, and we have spent a lot of money, taxpayer money, in Levitt Park to make changes and to do better for your community. I'd like for the city attorney to talk about property rights and how the city council can't just take property rights from people.
When you own property, whether it be in the city of Rockledge or anywhere, whatever the municipality or the county is going to have a set of regulations. In the city of Rockledge, those are the land development regulations. They set out in conjunction with the comprehensive plan how and what you can do in every district within the municipality. You cannot, if you comply with the regulations, if you meet the requirements of the comprehensive plan and you receive all of your concurrencies, stormwater from St. John's, the school board, traffic, all of those items that you're required to do, whether it be a single family residence or a development, a plat, or in this case, a PUD, there's no actual violation of any of our rules, regulations, or the comprehensive plan. If we try to stop it, we will be subject to a lawsuit because we're not complying with our own rules. And that would, all of those, matter of fact, there's one going on right now in Palm Bay. But anyway, the city is required to comply with their own rules and regulations. And if they meet all of those, they're going to be entitled to any developmental permits that any other landowner would have, whether it be a single family or in this case, a PUD.
Right. So, I mean, a couple of people said that they want the city council just to stop this. Well, the city council, we can stop this. We can say no tonight, but they can file a lawsuit tomorrow against us, and they're going to win. And they're going to override us. The courts are going to override us because we violated our own rules and regulations. And all we can do, and what you can do, which you guys have done, in my opinion, as homeowners, you've come forward, you've expressed your concerns, you've discussed it with the developer, which not many developers will meet with homeowners before they come to the city council, which I applaud you for doing that. But more that the developer works with you and makes the concessions that you guys are looking for, the better off the neighborhood turns out, and the more happy. You're never going to be happy because that's your pristine land. It's been there all these years, but you haven't been paying property taxes. Somebody else has been paying property taxes on it. And I guess they got tired of paying property taxes on it, so they decided to sell it. And as long as you can work with the developer and he can make concessions and try to make you guys as happy as you can, it's going to make us much happier as a city council. So now it's open to the board for discussion.
Well, I would add to that, I mean, we could conceivably deny the change to a PUD, but he could still build almost as many houses. I don't think the difference between in 4 or 5 houses difference would make that much of a difference. And I think from looking at this plan here, I think you would end up with not as nice of a development in there, in your backyard, basically. And I understand, my sense from listening to you guys is that you'd really rather keep your little wooded lot out behind your house, and I totally understand that. I totally get that. But that's not even what we're really discussing here tonight. What we're really discussing is whether we go with a PUD that has lots that are 10-foot narrower. Am I saying that? Is that the right number, Alex? 10-foot narrower than R2. Correct. That's all we're talking about. That is absolutely all we're talking about. I can tell you from past experience dealing with this developer, and I don't know if he brought his lawyer to his meetings with you guys, but he brought his lawyer to his meetings with me. When I was the president of the Wellington Station homeowners, and we were negotiating with, I think it was Leonard Spielvogel then, wasn't it? Yeah. You know, we ran into the same thing. Phillips Landing is 2 or 3 feet higher than my neighborhood. And our neighborhood is surrounded by a canal, but our property owners owned land on both sides of the canal, so we didn't, you know, we had to make sure he didn't advertise and sell it as lakefront land, because it wasn't. We owned both sides. And we had 3 or 4 fairly long meetings going back and forth and negotiating. He will work with you to try to make you as happy as he can and still make money. I mean, he's not doing this for fun. He's doing it to make money. But I think what you have to keep in mind is we're not talking here tonight about whether or not we're going to keep a little wooded lot back there. What we're talking about tonight is, are the lot lines going to be minimum 50 feet wide or a minimum of 60 feet wide or something along right in that neighborhood? Am I saying those right numbers, Alex?
Close.
Close. So that's really what we're talking about. And to do the wider lots, then we're giving up some of the open space that he's built into this plan. He can still build the same number of houses. The zoning is the same. The zoning is the same number of acres. I checked on this when like you guys said, we try to do our homework, and I checked on, okay, how many houses are allowed under the R2 zoning per acre, how many under the PUD, and it's the same number. And he's not even building up to capacity for either zoning that's in place. That's correct, right? As I understood it. I don't know, and as the mayor implied, you know, we have to be careful when we take an action that affects the value of a landowner's land, of what he can use his land for, and how we tell him to do that. You know, it can be done to certain points, but not as much as many people think. I've sat here in 2 or 3 where an apartment complex was going in and going to be 4 stories looking into people's backyards. That was not pretty, but the zoning was in place. There wasn't a dang thing we can do about it. Not one person on this council wanted that to happen.
And
there was not one thing we could do about it.
And that went to federal court, didn't it? Is that the one on St. Andrews?
Yeah.
That went to federal court?
Yeah.
That wound up in a settlement.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, anyway, yeah.
Okay, this is
lady
open.
back here wanted to ask a question.
Well, right now I've opened it up for the council. I'm at the council discussion right now, okay? So is anybody else on the council?
You have to do a public hearing. We doing a public hearing?
I don't do a public hearing now, do I?
In the quasi-judicial hearing, someone should be making a motion to open it up, but they should be given their opportunity to rebut anything.
But wait a minute now.
2 different things.
You had, essentially, there's a difference between the parties who oppose the development and the developer. And what they have to do is they essentially are giving you evidence, the 2 parties.
Correct.
And we are required to do this change to have a public hearing. And that will open everything up to anybody to talk. So we need to open up for a public hearing after.
We need to make a motion.
After the developer has it developed.
Okay. So at this time, well, first of all, I've still got it for the council. Any council person has any input on this? Yes.
Did hear back from the DOT about the resolution we passed about no roundabout. So we've done what we can there to this
Yes.
point.
Yes.
Until the June 28th meeting.
All right.
Okay.
And I'm sure most of the council people will be at that meeting next Thursday night. Joe?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I'm aware that zoning classification change over a period of time. Things do happen for that to take place. But as this conversation has progressed tonight from the text messages and or the information that we have heard about the meetings, my mind reflected back to something very dear to me that I think about quite a bit. And this city came up with a motto that says something like preserving the past and planning for the future. So it's something there about that past reflects back to certain neighborhoods and situations within neighborhoods. And those individuals who bought in or came in at a certain period of time, that's a thing that they saw and they needed and they wanted. And yet then later, and rightfully so, we have to give respect to developers who want to develop situations. They have long-range plans to move things, and then on the books, as the attorney Law just said, we can play with these zone classification and change them as the council sees fit. But with Jolie Smith, I want to be open and fair with this. See sometime throughout the county and maybe across the country, some of the older neighborhoods sometime get pushed back, not being able to. The city want to keep them going, but things can impact those older neighborhoods that might not be in the best interests of the existing neighbors. It appears to me that the majority of the individuals who attended the meeting, the majority of them, I understand from the developers and the presenters, the homeowners, that they seem not to want to bring about these changes or see them come about. They talked about the environment and this and that, and something came up a minute ago, which this council knows very dear to my heart, about the traffic in and out of Levitt Park. As it is now, and we can't put a traffic light like we want to, as you said. It's a process in doing that. So I said all of that, I guess, to, and by the way, it should be not a disclaimer, but a claimer. I'm a resident of Levitt Park. I've been there since 1968. 1968, with the opportunity to move and go elsewhere. If I wanted to, and if I could borrow the money from Councilman Ferguson to go on another building money. But I ought not to do that. But I can sympathize with the neighbors of Levitt Park. I understand what they're saying. What I would like to say in closing, Mr. Chair, that with the split as it is now, and it doesn't seem to be a shortage of houses, a shortage of this, and whether developers need to move right now or not. I would like to see the developers and the homeowners go back and take one more shot at this thing and see if some type of commonality can take place than where we are now. I just feel that something out there can bring that. Otherwise, we got another split community, and preserving the past and planning for the future motto, we might have to revamp that. I yield, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody else on the board?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I'd like to echo Dr. Smith's sentiments. First of all, I'd like to say I feel I'm sympathetic as well as empathetic to the residents. I was born and raised in Rockledge. I attended Anderson Elementary. I know I look 20, but, and my mother lives in the house right here on Barton behind Burger King. Where Burger King is, when I was a child, that was a home. All of those businesses that are there on Barton to the east of Burger King were residences. And the same thing occurred after I left my parents' home. It went from R2 to PUD. And they filled these walls, the residents did. Not as many that are in Levitt Park because there are not that many homes off of Cogswell Street. And the city wanted to do the same thing, wanted growth. And for a long time, we were angry with Mayor Jack Oates and one of the council members that are sitting now. But development has enhanced our city. And my mother's still there, the purple Halloween house there right on the other side of the wall there by Burger King. And so I do want you to know that we are sympathetic, and I would like to see exactly what Dr. Smith just said. I think if I got your name, I think it was Ms. Ramsey that asked or suggested there for some consideration to reduce the number of homes would be acceptable. So could we not go back to the bargaining table with the residences and make some concession? It sounded like they are open for advancement or growth, but could we not go back, Mr. Gardner? That's my question to you after the
Any other questions?
council's discussion.
Board.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just want to mention the first time I came before City Council in any way, I was a resident and I was asking questions about the new development at the end of my street.
I remember.
And whether or not we can preserve my tree house, because it was still there since 1968. So I can understand the angst that is there when somebody comes in to develop a local location and you lose the green space that's there. I thought that was all wetlands. Now you go down to the end of Huntington here, and you actually go up a hill. They brought in so much dirt that it was built up that much.
Well, that was all the lakes they dug out there.
Yes.
Right.
But it was so much different from when I wandered around there in my youth.
Yep.
So I have a feeling, I understand where they're coming from. I just don't see a good way of changing the direction we're heading in Rockledge. Mm-hmm. Development infill's happening. The census report we had showed we're going to have 40,000 people here in 40,000 people in 15 years from now. There's got to be a place for those people.
Yep.
And services and everything else that goes with it.
Yep. Okay, now it's time for rebuttal. Mr. Gardner?
I can remember all. Thank you, Councilman. Just a couple of things. A lot of questions about wildlife. We can't develop the property without a permit from Florida Fish and Wildlife, so be assured that ConDev on their own can't make development occur on a site, and so we understand that process. In fact, your own code requires that we provide that report, of which some of the residents have already asked. So I think it's important to note a couple of things. We originally had 30 lots, so we're at 28 now.
Was that a concession you made with the homeowners?
Well, it was after, candidly, I probably didn't completely understand fully comprehend the sensitivity of it, and sometimes developers are guilty of that. But heard that loud and clear, certainly in the community meeting. And so, yes, I mean, from that meeting, 30 became 28. The other thing that has occurred is that the lots that abut Bayberry Lane have been increased in size from 50 to 65 or 60, 50 to 60. So those lot sizes have increased to provide compatibility to the homes that abut there. And I should tell you that the open space in this project is 33%. It's greater than your code currently allows, significantly greater. And so your request to meet with the residents, I'm happy to meet with the residents. This has 8 months yet still before development. The opportunity to meet with the residents is significant. I don't know that I'm in a position, everyone keeps talking about concessions. This zoning actually allows 5 units to the acre. That's 40 units. I wouldn't put that in there. It's not fair. But I will tell you the way Rockledge lives, and I don't know that anyone's going to want to hear this. I built 240 houses in Phillips Landing. Half of the residents were retirees. They don't live on large lots. They simply don't. And so we're trying to balance what you've created here, which is a great place to live, not only for families, but for retired residents. And that's what this community plan does. So for us, so how do we balance those goals? I think we've gone a long way in doing that. I'm happy to meet with the residents. I don't know what we're talking about negotiating. We've already reduced our density. We've increased our open space. We've committed to preserve. We've provided a buffer on an 8-acre site. And that to me is a big step.
Okay.
So,
thank you. Anybody have any questions? Mr. Gardner?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to add, if I had to vote tonight, if a vote is called for tonight, I would vote against it as it's being presented. However, I don't know how I might vote if they can go back and then see if some type of compromise can be worked out to some extent. I yield.
Okay. Yes.
Might I ask, council member, may I ask why? I'm just curious. I mean, I would prefer guidance. I would really like guidance from council if we were to meet with residents at what the guidance is. Is the guidance total units? Is guidance home size? Is it lot size? What is the guidance? I would ask that from council.
My only statement, I'm going to repeat it.
Yes, sir.
And hope you hear me very clearly. It appears from the meetings that were held, the majority of the existing homeowners seem to have been against it. And they gave some reasons for it. I think you prefaced your remarks by saying they did come before you, but I never heard what kind of jargon or what kind of deep discussion went on. And based on what I've heard here tonight, maybe there's anything that can be done. I realize about property rights and also I realize about developers' rights and also homeowners' rights. That's why I think we can get back together again, and let's see. I don't know if a month, a week, a delay will do any good or not. And I'm not going to sit here today and try to debate, well, we told them this or we said that. I'm just saying as a PR type of promotion to try to bring some uniformity, some togetherness to this proposal to make sure that we can move forward with it. That's what I'm suggesting.
Well, what we're actually approving or disapproving here tonight is a preliminary development plan.
Right.
You understand that? This is preliminary.
The zoning change.
And the zoning change.
Yes.
From, okay.
But the zoning change, as I understand, the zoning change does not affect the allowed density one way or the other. Is that correct? I mean,
Alex will have to answer that. Alex, come forward.
That's correct. So R2 allows for 5 units per acre, and the PUD also does.
Yeah, same amount.
Yes.
Okay. So this is a preliminary plan. Like he says, it's going to be 8 months to 12 months before this ever comes to any kind of development. And at that time, he's got plenty of time, the developer, to meet with these homeowners, to meet with so he's got to negotiate with the city, he's got to negotiate with St. John's.
Yep.
He's got to negotiate with Wildlife. What is the name of that?
There's no negotiating with Florida Fish and Wildlife.
There's no negotiation.
There's a permit requirement.
There's permitting. And so there's a lot of things to do before it ever comes back for final plat. Correct?
That's correct. It will also come before you for plating requirements once we get to that step. So this will not be the last time that
So
you
this
see
could change completely by the time we ever see it again.
I'm well aware of that,
Okay,
but my position still hasn't changed.
that's fine. Okay, so what's the pleasure of the council tonight?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
one housekeeping thing. If there's anybody who hasn't presented any testimony and/or conversation to the council, the statute still requires there to be a public hearing. And so if anyone else out there, should open it up for a public hearing for anybody who has not already testified.
At this time, I open this up for a public hearing. Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak about this project? You have to come forward. You need to sit in the front row.
I know, I realize that now.
That's all right.
Got a couple questions. One would be the school. We've heard that the schools are all full right now, and there's a lot of developments that are going on where houses are being built and haven't been sold on Fisk. And one of Mr. Gardner's developments on Barnes that still has houses for sale. What happens if the school system in Rockledge doesn't have room and these people come in and buy the houses? Are they going to be told that the kids will be bused to different school districts before they buy the property?
I'll let my city attorney answer that.
That is a decision that is made by the Brevard County School Board. They would make the determination as to whether there was a requirement for busing, and that's why they have to give their concurrence before there can be any kind of development on it. They take a look at that. The city does not make those decisions.
Okay. These are all totally unrelated, but that Florida handbook online talks about a lot of different things like property boundaries, and one of the other issues is pine trees that are older than 30 years old, requiring a reforestation plan. It's a state Florida handbook.
Ma'am, what the developer is going to have to do is he's going to have the Department of Environmental Protection, and he's going to have the St. John's Water Management District, the school board, anyone else who is of the state agencies who have a say in what can and can't be done in the state. They have to get their okay before they can start developing, building house one. That they haven't gotten to that point yet.
Before they bring out bulldozers or anything, they can't break ground or do anything until they get all these
That's
different.
correct.
I can't guarantee what somebody might do with a tractor with lights on it at night.
Well, okay. And the other thing, which is, it's the utility land that is behind our property on Bayberry. We used to have people come out and maintain that property back there, and the grass is up to the 6-foot high mark on our fence lines. I know many of us have called the city hall and asked who's coming out now, to maintain it. Is that property that you own? And who is going to be responsible for maintaining it in the future?
On our property, our homeowners association.
Even though there might be a fence that would be in front of that utility land? Their utility road?
Excuse me,
right
Mr.
behind
Chair, may
Bayberry?
we have?
If the property is developed and sold, at that point, it falls under the ordinances of the city as to how the property is maintained and what the owner of the property has to do with it. And if they fail to comply, there's the code enforcement process where they have to come forward and either comply with the city ordinances or they're going to be fined.
And as a point of order, Chris, you cannot speak from the audience. You have to be in front of the microphone because everything has to be recorded.
We have had some little fires back there, and it's been as the result of the property back there becoming dry. And right now it's not dry, but there is potential for it. And with the grass and the overgrowth there, it definitely needs to have some maintenance done on that road, so to speak, area. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that'd like to speak on this? Got a couple of hands. Come forward. Name and address for the record.
My name is Rebecca Morley, and I live at 927 Brookview Lane. I'm sorry, could you spell your last name? Morley. And your address again? 927 Brookview Lane.
Thank you.
I am a lifelong resident of Levitt Park. I grew up on Bayberry Lane, and when I got married and bought my own house, I decided to buy one on Brookview right around the corner because I love the character of our neighborhood. But as a lifelong resident of that particular little corner of the neighborhood, I have seen lots of wildlife come and go through that area. We've had deer, we've had bobcats, we've had eagles, we've had a mating pair of owls. And so my concern is with the environmental impact, much like many of my neighbors. And I was wondering when an environmental impact study is done by FWC, if that will be made available to the residents of the neighborhood.
Sure, it's public record.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? I saw a hand. Yes, sir, come forward. Name and address for the record, please.
Name is Jesse Chancery. Address is 962 Bayberry Lane.
Spell your first and last name for me.
It would be JESSE-CHANCERY. I originally wasn't going to speak today, but Dr. Smith's words kind of resonated with me, and I don't know if there was a large crowd of people here in the previous meetings, so I can't pretend to speak for all of them, but maybe might be able to put into context a little bit of what might be some concerns that could be ongoing. One was the, quote, strategic placement for where the various two-story units will be placed, and nobody knows where that is, and perhaps some of us would like some clarification on that, because that's important going forward. Especially for the residents on Bayberry. Another one I believe April brought up, that little upside down, sideways, L-shaped piece of road
Conservation area?
No, the piece of road there on that goes from Bayberry Lane, and I forget the road on the north there, but these are small, narrow residential roads, which often have cars parked on the side of the roads. And I would kind of like to know how you're going to bring in tons of heavy equipment and bulldozers and through those roads, and the construction traffic into and out of, and the flux of construction traffic into and out of those roads on a daily basis. That's something nobody wants to, have an army of trucks roll down their neighborhood at 8 in the morning for 2 years, 3 years, however long this thing goes on. So that's a concern. And then lastly was, I believe the mayor brought up something about, well, you can't, deal with people's property rights and whatnot. But when for somebody for almost 3 decades, more than 3 decades, some cases 4 decades, they've stared at, a backyard full of wildlife, and some developer wants to come in and change that. In New York City, they have a concept called air rights. So you build a property here, you occasionally are offered the ability to have a variance. A big high-rise goes up, you can't build another high-rise within a mile, quarter mile, whatever, because nobody wants to see that. Obviously, putting a 2-story house in the behind somebody's house that's never had anything like that, it's always had complete privacy, that affects their property value, that devalues their property. How is that taken into consideration? Anyway, so those are my remarks. I don't know if anybody else had had any addendum to that, but I hadn't heard those brought up, so
okay.
thought that would be helpful and perhaps clarifying some of the concerns.
Thank you.
that might be ongoing. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Come on. Name and address for the record again, please.
Frank Hetzler, 898 Brunswick Lane. May I just speak to the developer?
No, sir.
Oh, okay.
You need to address the council.
Rest everybody, okay.
Address the council.
Well, this is in
You
conjunction.
can meet
for-
with him at any time and talk to him
Oh, okay. I can-
privately.
Oh, privately, okay. Well, my reason for coming back up was, I just want to say, have a heart. Levitt Park is a special place. Let's keep it as is. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Seeing none, I close the public hearing. What's the pleasure of the council?
Chairman,
Go ahead.
I hate this type of discussion. It's frustrating to me in some ways. Those of us who were on the council when we had the big issue with the apartment complex, it's very frustrating. You know, there are things you can do, things you can't do, things that when you take office, you think you can do. And when you sit here for a few weeks and you get the rule books handed to you, you realize you can't do it. What we're really dealing with here today is not a change of density. I mean, he has every right to develop that property as it sits right now. We don't have to do a thing. It stays in the R2. He got 8 acres there. He can build 40 houses. That's how it sits right now. Is that not correct?
That's correct.
Okay. That's if we take, if we deny this action tonight, if we do not change it to the PUD, he can come in there and build 40 houses. No changes necessary. We don't have to do a thing. I think what's being proposed is, and just to let you guys, I used to live right across the canal there from this. In fact, I lived across the canal when maybe some of you bought your houses in that last boom that was back in the late 90s, and those houses were built on the south side of the canal there. Because I used to look out the back window and see nothing but trees, and then there were houses. And then there were also rabid raccoons in the ditch too, but, and who made this map here? Oh, thank you. The reason I said that, this drew something to my mind, and I'm looking, we were talking about the green space, and I know you guys can't see this, but I think one of the reasons that there's a lot of wildlife back there is because of that canal, and it's a natural pathway from all of this undeveloped property over here on the other side of Murrell from you guys. And wildlife comes up and down that canal. They use that road. They use the ditch line itself. I don't think you've got a panther living in 7 acres of brushland in the middle of Levitt Park. It's a pathway. I don't know how much difference changing that particular piece of land would make in that pathway. That's not my area of expertise. All I'm trying to point out is, by saying this, if we chose to deny this change tonight, Mr. Gardner could come in there tomorrow and, you know, he'd have to do his plans and all of that stuff, but he can basically go in there and build 40 houses. And he owns that land. That's what it's zoned for. He has every right to do that. Whether you like it or I like it, or it doesn't matter who likes it. That's what it is. It is what it is. And I'm assuming that R2 zoning has been in on that property for 40 or 50 years, probably, forever. And so that's where we're at on this.
Didn't have zoning until 68.
I think what we have before us is an opportunity to improve on those 40 houses and straight streets and straight lot lines, and to create more of a neighborhood with a little more open space. The stormwater, I don't know, I'm not a stormwater, I'm not a hydrogeologic expert, but I will tell you that in Phillips Landing, their water all stays in Phillips Landing. It does not come onto my neighborhood's property. So I think those of you who are having drainage problems with water coming off that property into your backyards and running through the street, I think you're going to be in better shape when this is done, because he is required by the city and the St. John's and probably 5 other agencies to trap all that water that's going to fall on that property and keep it on that property for treatment. And right now, it's being treated in your backyard. It's sloughing off there into your yard. So it's, you know, the idea of having the open space and having the natural woods. I grew up on the side of a mountain in Kentucky. I was surrounded by woods. I get the appeal of that. I get the appeal of having the birds in the trees out there. And we try here in Rockledge. We just a few years ago got a huge section of land on the other side of Fisk over here that's not going to be developed, that's just for that sort of thing. And all I'm suggesting here tonight is I'm going to support this plan, and I'm going to support it because I think it's a better alternative than 40 houses jammed in there with no consideration for open space or attractiveness, or, I mean, he could still make as much money building the 40 houses back there as he can doing this, if not more. It doesn't change the density. The density is still 5 units per acre. He's coming way under that. He's only doing 4, not even quite 4.
Right.
I just think it's going to be a better looking neighborhood than if he maxed it out to 40 or to the 40 units that are possible to put back there. I can also tell you, and I haven't talked to Mr. Gardner. Like I said, I met him when I was negotiating from my neighborhood, and it was sometimes contentious, but always respectable, respectful, I should have said. And I would encourage you, if he doesn't already know your concerns, to talk with him about your concerns. And would I expect him to comply with all of them? Absolutely not. But you might get some flexibility out of it. It worked for me, and I haven't talked to him since maybe a year after Phillips Landing started. It's been that long since I've talked to Mr. Gardner. I just said hello to him as he came in. He doesn't seem like he's changed that much. I think he'll still listen. Now, you have to keep in mind that he's in it to make money. And he owns that property, and he can go in there tomorrow and start his paperwork to put 40 houses in there. I think by working with him, you'll come out with something that's more compatible to your neighborhoods, that will do things like keep the water from running off that property into your backyard and into your, I lived in a neighborhood where that happened, and it was a pain. So I'm going to support this change because I think you'll end up with a better situation if we approve this and go with the PUD and stick with his basic plan. Again, as the mayor said, this is going to come before us again, and after he gets through with St. John's and wildlife and whoever else, who knows, this could change. What I don't think will change is I don't think it will increase beyond this. to what it could be under either scenario. That was a longer speech than I meant to make.
Yes, it was. So I'm looking for a motion. I'm looking for something from this council to move forward, or what are we going to do here? What's the pleasure of the council? Are you ready to make a motion, Frank?
I'll make a motion. I'll move for the approval of the zoning district amendment from R2 to PUD and authorize staff to prepare the required ordinance.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a second. Do we have any further discussion? Everybody understand what this motion's about? I will call for a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, hold the hands up for the ayes. Opposed?
Aye.
2 opposed, 1 abstained. Motion carries. Let's take a 10-minute break.
Yes, please.
We will re-adjourn here at 7:40. 7:40. Let's move on with our agenda. D, reappointments and appointments. What?
Sorry, Council Finance and Budget Committee. Did you read that? There was no recommendation, but that was the next thing on the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry. Council, C, Council Finance and Budget Committee minutes of meeting of June 13, 2018. There was no recommendations. Okay. Reappointments and appointments. Reappointments, none. Appointments, A, Business Development Committee. Who's giving me this one?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
I move to appoint Janet Monaco, if I pronounce that correctly, by acclamation to the Business Development Committee.
Second.
Motion, second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, saying- Is Janet in the audience? No. I know Janet. Janet owns Pet Pros in Rockledge. She's a big supporter of our police department and our K-9 units. She actually donates a lot of money to our K-9 units. She's a big part of our city. Planning Commission. At present, there are 2 vacancies for the Planning Commission. One applicant has been received, Karen Kuda. And I know Karen's not here because I know Karen. But go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, move to appoint Karen Kuda by acclamation to the Planning Commission.
Second.
Motion, second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Karen's a big part of one of our volunteers. She's been on the Code Enforcement Board for many years. She's the chair? Many years she's been on that board. Okay, Community Redevelopment Agency Board of Commissioners. Currently has 1 vacancy and 1 application has been received.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Move to appoint Angela Mumblow to the Community Redevelopment Agency by acclamation.
Second.
Motion, second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Is Angela in the audience? No Angela in the audience. Okay. I don't know Angela. Let's move on. Rockledge Environmental Enhancement Tree Board. Who's going to give me that one? There are 2 vacancies.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I'm going to nominate Janet Monaco, and Kendall Duran, strictly because we just appointed Adam Copenhaver to 2 other boards a couple of weeks ago. So I'll nominate Janet Monaco and Kendall Duran.
Second.
Janet, okay, we have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. I know Janet's name. Is Kendall here? Kendall, stand up. Kendall Duran.
Congratulations.
I guess we have your application in here. I read it. We really appreciate you stepping up and being a part of this. And hopefully you can be a big part of our city and make changes with our city. And look at other boards. Maybe you might be interested in something else.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being a part of it, Kendall.
You're the teacher, right?
Where do you teach? Heritage? That's in Port St. John, right? Palm Bay.
Yonder.
That's a long
I
haul.
have some friends that work down there. I hope you don't know them.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, let's move on. Unfinished business. City Attorney, Annual Performance Evaluation. Okay, I got everybody's, you will go ahead, City Manager.
Certainly, it was, the mayor had gotten all the evaluations for the city attorney, and he has reviewed them as well. And the compilation of the scoring was a 4.98. Congratulations, Mr. City Attorney, which is a superior rating. So they're there for your, I guess, official acceptance, if you will. Back to you, Mayor.
Hey, I tell it like it is, brother.
And you will have an opportunity, if you have not already, read all the comments.
I was given a copy of.
Good, that's what I wanted you to. Okay, I'm looking for them.
Perfect.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead.
Right. I move to accept the city attorney's annual performance evaluation report.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Kendall, watch this closely. You're going to be the chairman someday of the tree board. You got to learn these rules and regulations, the Roberts rules. Consent business, Mr. Dasky.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Move for the approval of these consent business items. A, continuing services agreement for grant writing assistance, Dr. Sherry Meters for the Planning Division. B, memorandum of understanding, intergovernmental radio communication program, 800 megahertz advisory committee for the Public Safety Department. C, travel authorization, Institute for Elected Municipal Officials, IEMO, basic on October 5th through October 7th, 2018 in Tampa for Councilwoman Martin. D, interlocal agreement, City of Cocoa and City of Rockledge, crossing guard services for 2018-2019 school year for the Public Safety Department. E, letter of congratulations, 80th birthday of Laura Bell Solomon Brown, City Manager. And F, deferral of closing date, Community Redevelopment Agency, purchase of property on east side of US 1, south of Barton Avenue for the city manager.
Second. We have a motion, we have a second. This is consent business. There is no discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Councilwoman Martin, on your elected municipal officials basic class, the last two graduates that came out of there was Councilman Dasky and Councilman Hartzell, and they were honor graduates. So we expect you to be the same.
Sir, yes, sir.
No pressure or anything.
New business, action item, Keep Brevard Beautiful, adopt a road program, litter removal agreement. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. This is more of a policy decision for council's consideration. Is the city interested in partnering with KBB to offer to business owners and/or residents an opportunity to adopt a road, a portion of a road in the city of Rockledge to keep it clean? There's like 4 times a year that there are cleanups, and so the city would work with KBB and get an agreement in place, as well as get a hold harmless and indemnification for the city. So that's there for your consideration if you'd like to authorize me to have the city allow that to happen.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
I'll move to approve the agreement with Keep Brevard Beautiful.
Second the motion.
We have a motion, we have a second. Do we have any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Petitions, remonstrances, and communications. At this time, it's Kendall's turn. Did you want to come speak to your city council about anything to do with the city of Rockledge, or anybody in the audience? This is your turn. Anybody in the audience like to speak to city council about anything to do with the city of Rockledge?
Kendall's mom.
Is that Kendall's mom? You look
I'm
like her
sorry.
sister.
I thought she introduced herself as her mom.
All right, let's move on. Reports, City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few things to update council. Friendly reminder, our 4th of July picnic is coming up soon, Wednesday, July 4th. As is tradition, those of you who wish to work the Coca-Cola truck or wagon, if you will, please speak with Ashley about your hours of service, please, and sign up. And we look forward to seeing you all there. Also, to announce a ribbon cutting, the Space Coast Health Foundation, being built out on US 1, worked with Johnette Gindling, who has come before, I think, this council before. Happy to announce there will be a ribbon cutting Wednesday, July 11th at 9 a.m. She wanted me to extend a warm welcome to all of you council members and city staff to come July 11th at 9 a.m. Also, all of you should have gotten your financial disclosure forms by now in the mail. And of course, those are due, I think, by July 1st or 2nd. I think it is the 2nd. And if you might consider allowing the clerk to have a copy, it is a public record document.
I already sent mine in.
And if not, I think she can get one. But if any of you need any assistance or have any questions about the completion of that document, the city attorney, I know, stands ready to answer any questions you may have. And lastly, Mayor, I want to extend a huge thanks to council. I don't know if you noticed on your drive-in tonight, there's a brand-new garbage packer slash
To the
truck.
audience out there.
Yeah, brand-new garbage packer slash truck that was, we received on Monday. So please take a look on your way out. Thank you to council for the sanitation services that the city provides to the citizens. So thank you.
Been climbing around.
You reminded me of that. I forgot.
I'm sorry, Mayor. That concludes my report.
We have to do this?
No, Mr. Mayor, y'all approved that under consent.
Okay.
Anyway, thank you. Okay. That.
Okay, city attorney litigation report. I need a motion.
I'll move to be in receipt of the city attorney litigation report.
Second. We have a motion, we have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. What you got, Joe?
The second one on the list of the three will be dropping off next time. The $77,690 forfeiture was settled. The case has been completed. Final judgment entered, and that one will disappear. I don't know. I'm sold the old one. I don't know whether I want it to go away, so I won't be able to do a report. I haven't. I received notice of a scheduling conference from Judge Roberts on a case involving the East Coast Railway and an LLC, and I'm still trying to find out whether it has anything to do with the city or not. And I don't have a case. I've never made a notice of appearance, so I don't know why they did it. But if it has something to do with this, I'll be scampering back to you and let you know what it is. It's hopefully it's just the clerk has done something again.
Okay.
Especially with the electronic world. And I would also like to thank you very much for your kind grading of me. I know that it's not real because I'm not that good. And also, I thought you did a great job with the quasi-judicial hearing. They're not easy to do. They can really get out of control, and I think the whole council did an excellent job.
Yes, they do. I remember, and Joe's the only one here with me. Between 2000 and 2005, we had all that development going on. Every single council meeting, this place was packed because of the developments we had going on, if you remember that. 2000 to 2005. Okay, let's go around the dais. City clerk?
I pass.
Joe, you okay?
I'm fine. I know you have in front of you the extension of that contract from
Yes.
the property. The only reason that was required is the title company had trouble getting the commitment out in time, and that was caused because the seller of the property, who does not have a cell phone and born probably 7 or 8 presidential administrations ago, they were unable to get a hold of her to get her to sign something. That's what it's all about.
Okay.
It's just that there's no problem.
Thank you. Councilman Hartzell.
I'd like to thank staff for the good work that happened at the volunteer breakfast. That was a very nice event. Could have used more people there. Make sure that all our new people are invited to the next time we have one.
Yeah, Kendall, you'll be coming next year.
It was good.
It was.
I pass. Councilwoman Martin.
I'll also piggyback on that volunteer breakfast. It was very good. It was at the, what is the name of Woodstock?
Rockledge Regional.
I've got to get you to that name change. It is not the same food that they serve you if you're a patient in the hospital. Also, League of Cities at the Promise House in Palm Bay. Food was just awesome. And it's a special needs facility. It's right off of Palm Bay Road by the theater there. And they're not complete yet, but it was a very nice facility. And Dr. Blackburn, school board superintendent, was the speaker. Let's see, and thank you for approval for my basic course, which I very well am looking forward to. And thank you also for my mother's 80th birthday
But remember,
acknowledgement.
we expect high things out of you. from that
Certainly,
class.
I won't let you down, promise.
If Dasky and Hartselle can be undergraduates, you can be too.
Sure, sure.
I don't know how to take that.
Yeah. Dr. Smith.
Mr. Chairman, I pass.
Dr. Ferguson.
Nothing this evening, I pass.
Councilwoman Dasky.
Councilman.
Ding, ding, what?
Wow.
Sorry.
I did wear a wig up here one time, so maybe that's what you're thinking of. Anyway, just a couple things. One, I will tell Councilwoman Brown that, or Martin, I'm sorry, that you will enjoy that class. You'll get a lot out of it. I have also taken 2, 3, 4, and 5. So I'm kind of setting a bar for you there to kind of come up to the bar, but you will definitely enjoy it. You'll learn a lot, and go with the intent of just an open mind. And when you have that open mind, it'll just flow in. I'm sure Councilman Ferguson will echo those thoughts as well.
I forgot, Sean was on undergraduate.
He was, yes.
Thank you, Lord.
Thanks for letting me know that.
Lordy, come thank you.
Not oh Lordy, but thank you, Lordy.
Also, I will announce that I have officially filed my intent letter to run for this seat again in the upcoming election.
Great. Thank you.
I pass.
Deputy Mayor.
Just a good job on the volunteer breakfast. Pass on my thanks to the hospital gang. They did an outstanding job. I will be out of town until basically July 18th. I'll be back for our next meetings. City manager, I'll be available by phone. Even out in the western wilds, I'll be available by phone most of the time. And a thanks to the members of the Budget and Finance Committee. I think we've put in a lot of hours here in the last few weeks trying to put together a budget that will be coming to you guys before too long. And I just think that I wanted to thank everybody. I thought we worked really well together, and we worked really hard. And it was a lot of hours. It was, 3 or 4 months worth of normal council hours as far as our meeting times were concerned. But I think we've got a good product for you this year, so be anxious to show you guys that. But thank you all on the committee for making that easier than it could have been.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, when Councilman Forrester mentioned July 18th, I will not be here at our next meeting. I was trying to make perfect attendance, but I do have a church convention, so I won't be in town.
That might hurt your grade point average.
I know, I have not missed a meeting. Sorry.
Because they asked, that's one of the questions in that class. Have you had a perfect attendance?
This is a merciless group, isn't it? A totally merciless group.
I feel it. I feel it.
It doesn't get any better. It doesn't matter how long you're on this council. It doesn't get any better. It's still a merciless group.
All right, and before I close out this meeting, I want to thank every council person for being professional tonight. Even though we disagree at times, we still can be professional and walk out of here as friends and, which is what it's all about, in my opinion. So I adjourn this meeting at 7:58 PM.